All right, welcome in to episode 5 of the What Do We Do podcast. I'm Kyle Bogey. We got Dewey Steffen here, the CEO of Great Lakes Wealth. And Dewey, we're starting to get into a little bit of a groove here. 4 episodes in. This is number 5. This has been enjoyable so far, no?
Absolutely. Are you kidding?
Great time. All right, we sit here, we have a little coffee, we talk a little bit about investments and do some different things. This episode, I'm very much looking forward to a niche market and something that has been going on that a lot of people are starting to get attracted to, and that is the cannabis industry. And this is something that has really kind of taken off here over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably the fastest growing industry on the planet right now, so it's absolutely relevant to talk about it.
All right, so let's go back before we start. And again, we appreciate you guys listening, downloading, subscribing, rating, sharing. Again, the What Do We Do podcast, you can find it on all of your streaming platforms, whatever you may listen to podcasts on. We appreciate that. And of course, if you're looking for more information on what Dewey does or what Great Lakes Wealth does, you can certainly go to their website at greatlakeswealth.us. So before we get into what is going on right now, and it is certainly a hot thing to get involved with. I know you guys at Great Lakes Wealth have absolutely been all over it, but going back to what the cannabis industry was before, I gotta believe it was a little bit of an unknown before people really started to, think about it and before it actually got into the market.
Bogey, you probably know this, but cannabis goes back thousands of years.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
Come on.
absolutely goes back thousands of years. But in 1973, the decriminalization, say that word 2 times, the decriminalization of marijuana began. So really, I think the roots here in America per se go back to 1973.
So would you say, I guess, that was the start of cannabis becoming a little bit more well-known, becoming something that you could potentially be looking at investing in here down the line?
So then after 1973, things slowly but surely became, more and more aware. And I think some really specific legislation in 1996, California voters passed Proposition 215, which legalized medical marijuana in that state. I think a lot of experts in the industry or in the business look at that as a milestone date.
So when did it actually hit the market? Some of these companies, and it becomes something that you obviously could enjoy recreationally or medicinally if it was something that you enjoyed or you potentially needed. It actually became something that people thought, wow, this is going to be a bigger thing. This is something that you actually need to be thinking about investing in. Was there a turning point, I guess, for that?
Well, I'm not the expert to tell you that, but I will tell you that way before recreational use, marijuana, came to the forefront. There was medical use, and there certainly was industrial use. So hemp, H-E-M-P, hemp was probably, I would say, the forebearer of a lot of it in terms of, its use and its ability to be manufactured or thought of as more than just a recreational, illegal, substance. So the 3 main uses are that industrial use, medical use, and recreational use. And obviously, for those that know the marijuana history, there's 2 main drug ingredients inside of the cannabis plant, and that is THC and CBD. THC is the one that gives you the hallucinogenic effects, and CBD doesn't, and that'll be more on the medicinal side.
And honestly, the CBD, I guess, discussion and kind of veering off down, that pathway, that's kind of been over the last several years the craze. Whether it be CBD balm, people talk about CBD, gum. People talk about CBD, to try and help you sleep maybe late at night. Has that almost
I would say so. It's on par with the THC, and the hallucinogenic properties of the THC, along with the pure medicinal purposes of the CBD, just creates a much larger industry, creates a much larger opportunity set for those that are looking to profit from it as building businesses, but also from those that are investing, right? So absolutely.
I gotta believe that there is there's a lot of skeptics out there about cannabis and CBD and what it could potentially mean. Have you seen something like this in the market over the years where you almost have to change people's opinion on what it is and if it actually could be something that could be profitable for you moving forward? Because there's a lot of people, certainly from various generations, who will look at it and go, oh no, we're not going to get involved in that. No way I want to invest my money in it. But if you look at it from a practical standpoint, clearly, now that it's in the market, now that it's something that you can invest in, it has become something that has really grown over the last couple of years.
Well, again, it's still classified as a federal class 1 drug, so it's illegal federally, but certainly states now, I think something like 46 states have some sort of legalized ability.
That's pretty close to 50.
Pretty close to 50, right? And so from the taboo of recreational use marijuana to the the properties of medical use cannabis marijuana, I think that's helped the evolution to where we are today. And I think there's certainly multiple uses on the medical front, whether it's on the CBD and also on some other biotech uses that are going through the FDA currently. So it's kind of exciting. Absolutely.
You might not be able to get into, specifics and companies and things of that nature, but as far as, cannabis as a whole, I guess, when did it pop onto your radar? Somebody who, of course, is investing and trying to help people make money over these years. When was that something where you looked at it and you went, okay, this is really an opportunity here for your clients to potentially, get a stake in it and see what happens with it?
Yes. So probably in the last few years, as not only states began to legalize different components of cannabis, but Canada legalized it as a country, and several others have legalized it before that, to where companies were going public, and there was now an opportunity to invest in public securities in the cannabis industry. There's really three, I guess, main arteries of investing, and there's probably a lot of subsets off of that. But basically, it's those that are direct to the plant, pure play, if you will, that touch the plant per se, and then there's the ones that are the medical use that might come off of the plant, if you will, and then there's the ancillary products and services, and that might be the testing of it. It might be packing solutions. It might be some other technologies that have to go with it. So within the cannabis industry, it's absolutely in mega growth. I think this year in 2020, estimates are around $25 billion as an industry worldwide, and that's supposed to triple by 2025. Not double, but triple in 5 years. So 75 billion are some estimates for global, cannabis revenue, opportunities in the next 5 years.
In your mind, or based on some of the research that you've done, how is that supposed to triple, or why is that supposed to triple, I guess, over the next several years? Is there potential for it to be, on the federal level legalized? Is that really what people are betting on, or?
Well, you have a situation where for the longest time, the recreational use of marijuana, it was illegal. And so you had the underground market, if you will, right? The illegal market. And so when things come online and become legal, then more people will give it a try. We'll try it out. And there's all the, arguments for and against that. But now you add in not just the recreational use, but the medicinal use. And then you understand that as a generation evolves, that it becomes more accepted. And so, yes, a lot of the analysis is based upon if you get federal law in America legalizing cannabis, then you would absolutely have a rocket ship of additional opportunities.
Hey guys, it's Bogey from the What Do We Do podcast, and given the current economic and financial climate, I'd like to let you know Great Lakes Wealth is waiving all fees up to 12 months when you open an account with GLW by June 30th. So there's still some time to get involved and begin investing your money with Great Lakes Wealth. If you're thinking about getting professional investment help and would like to be as smart as possible with your money, let Dewey, Stephan, and the team at Great Lakes Wealth manage your money, and get you thinking about and investing in your future. You can keep up with Great Lakes Wealth every single day by visiting greatlakeswealth.us and follow GLW on all forms of social media. So obviously the last couple of months have been unprecedented, in our country, dealing with COVID-19 and, this global pandemic. And yet, over the last several months during this, stay-at-home order, and it's been different, for various states, but it's clearly been something that has been growing within the market, the cannabis industry. Why is that? Why is that something that has been able to sustain and even grow over the last couple of months versus some of these other stocks and various things that have been out there?
Well, it's not stocks, it's the industry, right? So you had the stay-at-home quarantine industry. That would be your streaming services for on-demand videos. That'd be your video games. That would be anything to do with home offices. And then the two that we talk about that are in the beverage industry, in the beverage industry and the cannabis industry, right? So there's no denying there was a major increase in the amount of alcohol consumption over the last few months, and a major
I contributed to that, I gotta say.
I don't know anything about your personal life, and we'll leave it at that, but if you can help the economy, do what you got to do.
Exactly.
Okay?
It was for you guys.
But again, and the same thing goes with cannabis usage, and that would really be on the recreational side, I'm sure, but also on the medicinal side, absolutely.
Now, I saw a stat the other day. Apparently, marijuana sales account for 60% of Michigan's overall sales. Is that correct? Can you break that down, I guess, for what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, I read that same statistic, and I don't know any more of the details on that. That just goes to tell you the amount of consumption that was done over the last, and I think that might have been through the first quarter of 2020. So that just tells you. And again, in the state of Michigan, I think all states, marijuana was considered an essential business or part of an essential enterprise when everything was on quarantine. So that does certainly go to why it's such a explosive growth industry.
This is episode 5 of the What Do We Do podcast. And again, we appreciate you guys listening, downloading, subscribing, rating, sharing, all of it. You again, find it on all of your streaming platforms, whatever it may be. Tons of more information to come. And if you want more information, you can check it out at the website, greatlakeswealth.us. But I guess to veer off, from that discussion just a little bit, I suppose the next question would be, how much of that, the growth over the last couple of months, how much has it been something where you could potentially make some money in the short term or potentially in the long term? Because we've talked about that quite a bit over the first couple of episodes. You want to make an investment right here, right now, try to make some money, or do you want to make an investment and try to make some money down the line? Is there, I guess, a clear line in what the cannabis industry is from that standpoint?
Well, from an opportunity to make money, absolutely. So on the industry of cannabis, you'll have winners and losers, and you'll have the entire industry defined, at that macro level. But inside of there, when you talk about stocks and investing in companies, you have a lot of these cannabis and cannabis-related companies that are down 70, 80, 90% from where they were a year, 2 years ago. And there's a lot of reasons why the cannabis stock market, if you will, has, collapsed, if you will, dropped precipitously as the usage and the revenue side of it has gone, exponential. So you'll have an opportunity where if the usage is increasing and the revenues and the opportunity set is increasing, yet the investments, the stocks are down, at some point, either the revenues are going to decline to match up and meet the stock prices, if you will, or the stock prices will figure themselves out and they'll, revert to the mean, if you will, or some appreciation factor to offset the disconnect. So that's where we now see there's several reasons why this is probably a fantastic opportunity to get into cannabis and cannabis-related investments.
So I guess we got to look at both sides here, and you like to do that with Great Lakes Wealth because you want to give the reasons why you should invest in something and maybe the reasons why you shouldn't, invest in something. So I guess we'll start with the positives. What are the positives and why you should potentially get involved and maybe, take some money if you should have it and invest it in the cannabis industry right now?
Well, we're going to start by saying that the cannabis industry and investing in it is extremely speculative. This is probably the highest risk investment that you can get into, and absolutely the highest risk investment that you would get into through our firm. Okay, so when you have investments in companies that are in an industry that's federally illegal, that in itself defines extreme risk, and it's not to be entered into lightly. If the government wanted to reform the state's ability to have legalized marijuana, they could do that, right? And then all those investments would, be a different outcome and different landscape than they're currently under. So, not only is the fact that the industry is explosively growing, but the legality of it is there of being illegal. That creates the definition of speculative from our perspective. So once you get past that, then you have to look at, again, are you looking at pure play cannabis companies, the ones that deal with the plant itself? Are you looking at ones that may be working on the medical side of things and looking for cures or therapies that are out there? And so all of it has to do with, again, as we say all the time, doing your work, doing your research, and taking your time and making the investment that's best for you and your specific situation.
Well, I guess what part of it, for you, and I don't know how specific you can necessarily get with what you do and what you invest in with Great Lakes Wealth, but what side of it, I suppose, or what area specifically, do you expect over the next couple of years? Not a guarantee, but what do you expect maybe to be the one that, you can pinpoint and say, hey, this might be the one that you really want to look at over the next couple of years that could take off?
Well, there's a host of them. So really, there's hundreds of opportunities like that, right? You can Google very easily the largest cannabis stocks publicly traded, and you'll get those names. You'll have names, again, that are pure play, like Canopy Growth, Kronos, Aurora Cannabis. Those are some of the largest ones that people might be familiar with. But you'll have other investments that we would consider might be Scotts Miracle-Gro, right? The fertilizer company. That's very important inside of there. Another company that distributes beverages is called Constellation Brands. They include Corona beer, not coronavirus, but they also have a stake in Canopy Growth. Philip Morris has taken a minority stake in a cannabis company. So there are different ways to play it, where those are the ones, investments that touch the plant, and those ones that may not touch the plant, but definitely are in the industry.
This might be, something totally off, and you don't necessarily have to answer it or get into it if you don't like. But the cigarette industry has been something that has ebbed and flowed, I think, over the years. I would assume that, people are not smoking, at least based on my vantage point, just being out in the world, aren't smoking as many cigarettes maybe as they used to. Is the cannabis industry...
Which is good, by the way.
It's
bad
great
for your health.
Of course. It's a beautiful thing, right? But is the cannabis industry something that could potentially be almost, I don't want to say taking over, but taking a sliver potentially away from people who are addicted to cigarettes and possibly getting them to be involved in cannabis?
I actually have zero idea about that. That's something that really makes some sense, I guess, in the conversation purpose. But in terms of the number of cigarette users and which ones may go from tobacco to marijuana, have no idea. I just know that the population that is looking towards cannabis is absolutely growing. And I don't really know, how that affects with vaping or different types of vehicles for, getting access.
All right, so we talked about the positives of the cannabis industry as an investment and what it could potentially be here over the next couple of years, both short-term and long-term. We got to do the other side as well, the negatives. And I think you already kind of hit on it. It's the risk factor, I got to believe, is number one, right?
Well, there's huge risk factors. There's not just the risk factor of it staying federally illegal, but there's the risk factor of these companies that you would be investing in, right? So from our perspective as investors, it's not just about the industry. It's not just about what sounds great. It's about getting into the balance sheet of the company and understand that this company be able to grow, because you're investing, you're becoming an owner of this company, right? And so part of the short-term challenges, which we think actually will create the longer-term opportunities, are that many of these companies were mismanaged. Many of these companies in the last 2 years probably have had financial results that fell short or were not what they expected them to be because they had miscalculated. And this is what happens when it's a brand new industry. It's the wild, wild west. It really is. It's likened to the gold rush, of the 1800s out in California back in the day, where we say that you might not even make your most money with the actual marijuana pure play companies. It might be just like in that gold rush. They say that a few people got wealthy by, panning for gold and got the nugget, but many others made fortunes by the Levi Strauss company, by the tent company, by the companies that, had the pants. So the same thing here. It may not be the pure play cannabis, leaf company, if you will. It may be something that's either an instrument or another technology that goes with it. So it's exciting and it's changing daily.
Does it amaze you at least a little bit how the perception has kind of changed? And I know there's a long way to go. There's plenty of people who are just, no, it should never be legalized. No, I would never invest in this. I don't want anyone coming near this. But obviously it's something that's growing. It's something that's a little bit trendy, and the perception overall is just going to continue to change, it seems, over the next few years. Have you been kind of amazed at how it's changed a little bit?
I have, and this is anecdotal, but when we first discussed creating a cannabis portfolio here, which we have had up and running for over a year now, we talked at length about the opportunity and what would be there. And then as we kind of surveyed our clients, we have clients that are, 20, 21, all the way up to, 90, 91. So we kind of surveyed them all. And in the beginning, it was really interesting that the majority of the clients that were excited about it were those that were over age 60. And I would have thought I was really, really concerned that they might put a bad stigma on our firm, or have a bad taste in their mouth, if you will, or just worried about how that would be perceived by our clients if we came up with an aggressive speculative portfolio like cannabis. But once we kind of started talking to them, they were the ones that said, "Are you kidding me? This CBD oil is amazing. Are you kidding me? Like, the opportunities are there." So it was interesting out of the gate. And I've got a couple statistics I'd like to share with you, because this is from our work. In 2008, right, and this is in the U.S., this is legalization support for cannabis. So the whole idea of what is, thought to be acceptable or not. So in 2008, 40% of those 18 to 34 supported legalization. 2018, that was up to 72%. Okay, so let's kind of just round up 40% to 80% of those that are 18 to 34. That
pretty good hike there.
Bogey, that makes some sense, right?
100%.
Right? I mean, that's okay. That's but here's the most interesting one: those aged 64 and above. Okay? 64 and above. If they were at 21% in 2008, what do you think they were at 10 years later in 2018? Again, the 18 to 34 went from 40 to 72. I want to know what those 64 and above went from in terms of their support for legalization. They were 21% in 2008.
I mean, I got to believe that you're bringing this up because there's got to be some wow factor. So I got to believe the number is going to go up. I would say maybe double, like 45%.
Man, I tell you what, you got some sort of a crystal ball, or I don't know what kind of magic touch, but 46%.
Crushed
it.
It
more than doubled, right? So from 21 to 46, more than 100% increase in the support from that age demographic. So that just tells you that, the stigma, the stereotype, the tabooness, that's gone. That's gone. It's still federally illegal. There's still issues with the banking system. There's still issues with management of companies. There's still a major thing, which a lot of novice investors may not understand, but there's something called access to capital, right? So you need to be able to, have money to make money, right? You have to have capital, buy things, invest in things, and then that's what has produced end product, right? So when something's illegal or something is not supported fully, then these capital markets are not as available, and that would be lending money to these companies, right? Or being able to go out and have private investors come on board. So once we get some of these other things that are major overhangs, again, i.e. the legalization of it's a huge one, you're going to see many more opportunities present themselves.
Is that a hard conversation to have? And no specifics, obviously, with clients or anything, but, trying to convince people who maybe had that hard line stance. You threw out the stats about, people that maybe didn't approve of, cannabis and, the industry as a whole. A hard conversation to say, hey, I know you might not like it. I'm telling you, there's money to be made here. And I guess at that point, does the conversation shift from, okay, you might not believe in it, but everyone wants to make money? Does that almost soften people to a certain extent?
Absolutely. Our clients here understand that as long as it's a viable investment, you want to, be a participant in it. Here at our firm, we only allow clients to invest in cannabis if it is no more than 20% of their overall portfolio here. It's
because of the risk.
Because of the risk.
Okay.
Correct. Absolutely. So if you have $50,000 to invest in cannabis, you need to have $250,000 of additional investments that are not in cannabis. We believe that this is a long-term investment that's going to ebb and flow, but we absolutely want to make sure that we're starting with conservative investments first and kind of building your portfolio like that of a pyramid, where the base is your foundation and that is your preservation. And then from there you move up to the top, and the very little sliver at the very top, that's your speculative bucket, and cannabis can fit in there for sure.
All right. Well, I think we covered just about every area we possibly could on the cannabis industry and investing in it and what it could potentially look like long term. Is there anything else you want to pinpoint, throw out there, make sure that people know about this and what they should maybe take into account?
Well, I'm going to leave our audience with a few comments. Yes. When we look at investing in cannabis, or if our podcast listeners are looking at investing in cannabis, here's a few steps or things to look at. Number one, understand the types of cannabis products that are out there. Understand the types of cannabis products that you would want to be investing in. Then know the different types of cannabis investments that are actually there. It could be equity, which is stock. It could be bond or fixed income, known as debt. So know what investments are out there. Third, understand the risks of investing in cannabis. So first, you need to know what the opportunity set is. Then you need to know what the investment opportunities are. But then absolutely better define these risks ahead of time, right? And know, enter with both eyes wide open. Number four is define what you as an individual investor are trying to accomplish with your investment in cannabis. So figure out ahead of time, what is it you're trying to accomplish? Number five is invest responsibly. Don't take your entire pool of money and put it into one cannabis stock that you read online this morning that was hot, right? So invest responsibly. And then number six is monitor changing industry dynamics closely and review your investments accordingly. So you need to either hire a professional management firm to take a lot of that responsibility off of your hands, or you just need to make sure that you follow those 6 steps and take investing in cannabis very, very seriously, but know that the risks are part of the opportunity for the reward.
All right. Fascinating stuff. A lot to chew on there. Again, we appreciate you guys listening. Please download, subscribe, rate, share. If you'd like, comment, with questions on the What Do We Do podcast pages. You can certainly follow Great Lakes Wealth on all of their social media pages as well. And again, any information that you want to find or anything that you want to follow up on, you can certainly go to the website, greatlakeswealth.us. I'm Kyle Bogey, Dewey Stephan. That's episode 5 in the can. Exciting stuff. Can't wait to get to episode 6.
See you next time.